The Superintendent of Education in Arizona releases a plan that she hopes will improve learning in the state.
We have experts in the department, and making sure standards are the best for Arizona children is one of their #1 priorities.
More money and resources for education in rural Arizona.
I'm a living example and a testimony of, that you can still grow by working in a rural school district.
This is Arizona Week. Earlier this month, Superintendent of Education Diane Douglas released her plan for education in the state. Developed after traveling the state on a listening tour, the superintendent says she's ready to take the next step. Here's Arizona Public Media's Mariana Dale with a story.
Our system did not deteriorate from neglect overnight.
Diane Douglas presented her ideas to fix Arizona's education system in Phoenix.
We will need to band together, think strategically, work as a team to put Arizona's children first.
A significant part of her plan is to boost teacher salaries and hiring with an additional $400 million from the state. The governor and legislators have proposed their own education plans in recent months.
Well, I haven't seen all the details of what either plan. They're things that are being talked about, but we haven't really seen any specific details, but I look very much forward to them. The plan that I'm presenting today is a comprehensive plan for the state of Arizona and the advancement of the education of our children. It doesn't hinge on the $400 million. I hope $400 million is the funding we can get brought to the table and get into the classrooms for Arizona's teachers.
The plan, called AZ Kids Can't Afford to Wait, has almost 70 proposals. So where would Douglas start?
Funding is paramount. We need to, I think it's not just teacher salaries that are an issue. What we heard loud and clear was a respect for the profession. That's something we can start this minute, helping our teachers, making sure, and I think on the day-to-day level, parents very much do appreciate how hard our teachers work for their children. We talked about the culturally inclusive, that's a huge part of it. Upping the standards, making sure that the standards we use to educate our children are developed, created, and controlled by Arizonans. So we always make sure we're meeting the very unique and individual needs here in Arizona.
One proposal is to revoke the Common Core standards. It's an echo of the promises she made in her campaign.
If we had been allowed to use ADE's process to revise the English language arts standards and the math standards, we would probably, I'm almost certain, we would be very close to bringing a proposal to the board. But rather than use the process that the board previously agreed upon, they chose to use a different process for the looking at the English language arts and the math standards, and quite frankly, that slowed the process down considerably. But we have experts in the department, and making sure standards are the best for Arizona children is one of their #1 priorities.
This and many proposals need the cooperation of other state agencies.
Right now, standards take action by the board. Several years ago, our standards used to be in statute, and that was changed.
Douglas wants to integrate culturally inclusive instruction in all subjects. In the past, the state has criticized Tucson Unified School District's ethnic studies classes.
For the last almost year, not quite, 9 months that I've been in office, we have worked very closely with Superintendent Sanchez down in TUSD, and there were concerns in the past about what was, the curriculum that was in the classrooms. TUSD has been very cooperative with the department, showing us lesson plans and curriculum, and I think right now we have a very collaborative process to make sure that TUSD students are getting the best education they can possibly get, and I look forward to continue working together. I believe that's how we'll get the best outcome.
Douglas says these types of lessons should be offered beyond TUSD.
I don't see them looking any different in the rest of the state. We shouldn't take one child and set them in one classroom and teach them one type of curriculum in another. Our children should all be getting the same. They should be learning about the Native American tribes and nations that are here in Arizona, their history, their culture. They should learn about the influence from Mexico. They should learn about the influence of anybody who is a part of Arizona. Has made our state a phenomenal place to live. We didn't come here, my family, by happenstance or by a transfer. We came because we wanted to live in Arizona, because it's a great place to live, it's a great place to raise a child, and we're all part of making it a great state. So that's what I want to share with our children.
So what is it going to take to get these lessons in the classroom?
We always have an ongoing process of reviewing standards and looking at them. So we just look, how can we bring pieces in? How can we make things better?
The plan has been met with both support and criticism, ideas that will take work to accomplish, and the 150-plus page report is being talked about in the academic community. Dean Ron Marks from the College of Education here at the U of A, thank you so much for having us here to the World of Words.
Worlds of Words, my pleasure to be with you. This is the largest collection of international children's literature in North America, the second largest in the world, and it's open to the public, so please, folks, come and join us.
We're here today to talk about Diane Douglas's plan for education in Arizona. You've read the plan.
I have.
What are some of your initial thoughts?
Well, it's ambitious. It's clear that Superintendent Douglas was listening when she went on her listening tour. There's a range of issues that she raises in the plan, from funding to teachers to curriculum and standards to assessment, homeless children, a whole range of issues. So from that point of view, I think it clearly represents the range of challenges we have in education in our state. I don't know how much of it is actionable, how much we can actually move from the proposal to actually action. The reason I say that is that there are so many disparate issues that are raised there, and she has 3.5 years left in this term, right? Maybe a little less now, a little more than 3. And to energize educators and the Department of Education to get all that done at this point, I think this will be very difficult. So I think she's going to have to pick and choose which are our priorities. The document itself doesn't really make that clear which are the high priorities for action.
If some of these things were to go into action, is that tricky for you to teach new teachers how to suddenly do these things? I mean, there are some ideas that are complex.
There are some that are complex, but most of them are not major turns in direction. For example, she takes on the issue of structured English immersion and structured English instruction for second language learners. And we have a policy in the state, we have a practice in the state that requires children to be pulled out of their classes for 4 hours a day until they get sufficiently fluent in English. The problem with that is that they miss the content in those 4 hours. So it acts as if teaching of English is separate from the learning of the content of the curriculum, and that has to be brought together. And there are some issues there that she recognizes in her plan about some of those limitations, and that's very nice. We've always been doing that in our teacher education program, so we wouldn't require a change in direction in order for us to accomplish those kinds of goals. And there are several others that are like that.
Language is one area where you
Yes.
agreed. Are there other things that you liked out of this plan?
She said very nice things about College of Educations across the state, and we have great public colleges of education, so I'm glad that she recognized that. She wants us to continue to modernize, and in her view, what she wants us to do is to get more field-based programs that connect the teacher education enterprise to the actual kids, and that's exactly what we do in our teacher education programs in early childhood, special ed, elementary and secondary education. So we do that. So I applaud that recognition and the fact that she knows that we're doing that.
Common Core was in there?
Common Core was in there, and of course she ran on that. And those are fairly well-established positions in the country. There are states that have been backing out of the Common Core, renaming them like we did. That's a place where she and I don't agree. I think the Common Core has many benefits. There are limitations, to be sure, as there are in any kind of plan like this. But one of the things that the Common Core does, and I think it's very important that it does it, is it helps move us away from a curriculum and a set of standards that Bill Schmidt at Michigan State has called a mile wide and an inch deep. So we touch on a lot of things, but don't go into depth in anything. And that's a disease of the American curriculum. We need to get past that. And the Common Core helps us move in that direction.
In your opinion, some of these ideas, learning cursive or taking out standardized testing, how does that change the classroom, the landscape?
Those are proposals that are of hugely different landscapes. So cursive, I learned cursive, you learned cursive, and we're probably okay with it, but it's a skill that's not as necessary as it once was. So is it important? Maybe, I don't know. To me, that is not worth a lot of concern about. On the other hand, assessment has changed the way we do education, the way we do assessment. And the high stakes testing, the way she described it originally was high stakes for schools, then for teachers, then for kids. And we need to change that. That has not been good for America.
You said this is ambitious. What is the general chatter in the academic community about what is the foreseeable future for something like these ideas she proposed?
Arizona is rapidly becoming what's called a minority-majority state. The majority of our children in our schools are Latino, or will be Latino, and that's wonderful. We have this hugely diverse, wonderful community that we live in. But our system is not as successful for Latino kids, for minority kids, as it is for Anglo kids. It's not as successful for poorer kids as it is for richer kids. And that will create inequities. That is our biggest, most fundamental problem for the state, is to deal with that problem.
A portion of the plan recommends more money for teachers and improving education in rural Arizona. In Wilcox, teacher Nidhi Mehta is Cochise County Rural Teacher of the Year, and she's a candidate for the Rural Teacher of the Year in Arizona. You are from India. What brought you to Wilcox, Arizona to teach high school?
At that time, when I was looking for a job in teaching in calculus, I had passed my high school math test for teachers, and I was looking for a high school math curriculum to teach. And that is the time they had a requirement to teach high school math class, and I applied and I came for an interview and shared with them as to I'm excited to be a teacher in high school classroom. And they also had a requirement, so everything clicked, you can say, and I got a job opportunity to work here.
Wilcox is a very small town, just off I-10. Did you have any concerns about moving here and just a lifestyle change?
Initially, I did have, I'll be honest with you. I had worked in Phoenix for a long time, so I was kind of apprehensive about it being a small town, and that was also a reason I lived in Tucson for the first 6 months. But just my first few months, my total thinking changed, about the school. I was thinking about the place. I think all the negativity went away when I looked at, how a small town school can also be very amazing, and it opens up windows to the world. It's not that you're in a corner somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and there are no opportunities. And I'm a living example and a testimony of, that you can still grow by working in a rural school district also. And I think it has been a learning stride after that, and all my apprehensions have vanished by now. I'm learning a lot as a teacher. Professional development, they try their best to give us excellent professional development, and I think I'm enjoying every microsecond of it. So now, in my accent, I'm going to tell you that it is time for let me put the most difficult one up there. Time for not 4 o'clock. Again, you're laughing at me.
This has had to have been a bit of a culture shock for you and probably for your students. How did you manage all that?
It was initially, it was again, the same way. It was a culture shock for my students as well. So at times it's good to make fun of your own accent, before they make fun of it. So I think those things have helped. And with culture, I honestly feel, yeah, we are different in the way we look. We are different sometimes in the way we dress, but we are still human beings, we are universal. And kids, they are universal everywhere. They are hungry for love, they are hungry for attention, be it any place. Initially I had my own problems, difficulties, but I think that my students helped me out a lot. I still remember a time in Phoenix when I had a student who, I used to say a number 13 in India, you will say 13 like 13. But she came to me during lunch and she said, Miss Mehta, I don't want to be rude to you. I don't want to offend you. But it's not said it this way. You have to say 13. So I still remember her name, Janaya, and she came to me during lunch and she said, Miss Mehta, it's okay, practice with me. And I practiced 13. And every time I say 13, I think about Janaya. So, you know, I think there have been amazing experiences and memories as to how people have been so helpful with that difficult time of culture change. So I want you guys to graduate. We don't want an earthquake in Wilcox. So if I dance too much, let me know. Okay.
What are the kids like here in Wilcox? You don't often hear about Wilcox in the news. Like any small town, it's only news when there's something terrible happening. But what I observed today is there's a lot of positive energy coming out of this classroom. So what's it like in here?
It's students here are, you know, we have cultural diversity here. A lot of our students are coming from Mexico. So we do have times when we have students who are, we are very close to the border. So we have students, at times they'll be here for a few months, then they'll have to go back. So, I mean, there's a mix of students. We have students who have stayed here in Wilcox, like their ancestors have been here, they had ranches. So these are the two different groups, you know, that we serve here. So, I mean, they're, on an all total basis, I think they're very respectful. Again, the small town thing comes up. I mean, you know, they know that teachers know my parents, you know, and the principal knows everybody, so admin knows, you know. So I think a small town, I think they don't get too many options to be in trouble, you know, rather than the big city schools. Am I doing it correctly? Honestly, I'm losing my confidence with this question a little bit. I'm like, do I need to go and study my calculus book again?
You make calculus, which is very complex, you seem to make it fun and interesting to these students. Why is that important to you that they get matters like this so they can apply it in the future?
That's a great question, I must say, because it applies to me. I was a high school math student, and honestly telling you, I struggled a lot as a math student because for the first 40 minutes of the class, I had no clue what was going on. And I used to pay so much attention, not that I wanted to talk or, you know, be in trouble, but I was trying to understand the concept and I never understood what the teacher was trying to say. So I think at times we have to come to the level of the student. You know, we have to simplify the concept for them to take that fear of math away. I mean, I've seen that fear of math in my students. I see it every day, you know. So I'm just trying my best to take it away from their lives and their, you know, regular day-to-day basis because I have experienced the same fear. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I told you I get excited when it comes to calculus.
Would you recommend a place like Wilcox to a new young teacher who wants to get his or her feet wet?
Amazingly. Yes, I will definitely recommend Wilcox. I think Wilcox Unified District has added a feather to my cap. I know rural school districts are, you know, termed or, you know, people think about them as to be, oh, small school district, what are, you know, how am I going to grow? I mean, that was my question on my mind also when I came here. And it looks like maybe my growth will stop, but I am telling you from my firsthand experience that I have not stopped growing even a day after I joined Wilcox Unified School District.
Many school districts in Arizona are operating with teacher vacancies. Wilcox Unified School District, though, is at capacity. A rural community, the superintendent says his district works hard to recruit quality educators. Kevin Davis, you are the superintendent of Wilcox Unified School District. Thanks so much for having us in town.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Tell me a little bit about this school district.
It's a good school district. I love Wilcox. All of my kids went to school here. All 4 of them graduated here. I'm fortunate to work here now. You know, we have a student population of about 1,100, about 170 teachers. We're very rural. You know, not a lot of money here in Wilcox. We have about 75% free and reduced lunches. Large Hispanic population, and also with our agricultural environment, we have a large migrant population. So,
I saw some of the stats through the state education. I mean, this district actually does pretty well given some of the circumstances.
right.
What do you attribute that to?
I attribute that to our hardworking staff. Great teachers here that don't get the credit that they're due. Good principals that work hard with their staff. a lot of specialty departments. We offer after-school tutoring. We have migrant departments, ELL departments, gifted departments, those types of things that work with the students. And probably, I think the biggest thing is we have a 4-day work week here. On Fridays, we offer individualized tutoring and Friday school. So I think all of those things help us.
You're currently at capacity with teachers, but I can imagine that recruiting to a small town comes with its challenges.
It does. We've been fortunate in the past to not experience that so much, but I think now, especially this past year and what is moving into this next year, it will be a challenge. The past year we had several people retire, several people moved to other districts that were able to pay a little bit more than we are, and so we had a few challenges over the summer, and I think that will continue. So,
does Wilcox offer a competitive package to teachers who are looking to come to this area?
I think that we do. Looking at the other districts around our area, we have some challenges because those are a small school district and are able to have a higher tax rate and pay a little bit more than we do. We're a little bit constrained by that, but we offer a fair package in comparison to, say, the other larger school districts around us. I come from other industry, and I think school districts are fortunate to have the types of benefit packages that they have and pay that they have compared to small business, especially small business. So,
we were fortunate enough to meet one of your teachers, Miss Mehta, who's the Cochise County Rural Teacher of the Year. She's up for the State Rural Award. Can you talk a little bit about the diversity that you bring in your staff in this community?
Sure. Miss Mehta is a prime example of that. You know, a foreign teacher, comes from another country, works here. She's probably one of the most dedicated teachers that I've ever seen. She loves the kids, works with the kids, and we have that. We have another teacher that's from Canada. We have another teacher that's from Puerto Rico, and so we encourage that. We like that, and I think that is helpful to our students that are also from diverse backgrounds, where maybe they can relate together on those issues that they face.
There are challenges with recruiting to this community, but what is your pitch to that new teacher who wants to get his or her feet wet and start fresh in a new district?
I think one of the biggest things, you know, we spoke about a little bit before, is the nature of a rural community, agricultural environment, small town. You know, one of the things that I saw when I first came here, one of the local real estate companies has, was fresh air, clean water, and blue skies. We have that, and we have great teachers, great principals, and things that we can offer. I hope to be able to offer better benefits or better salary packages for our teacher. We'll see what happens with the state and the legislature and with our state school superintendent with the plans that they have. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know, but hopefully it will, and we can offer money as well as those other things.
Can you share what the average salary is for a starting teacher in Wilcox?
It depends on the subject. We have different salaries based on hard-to-fill positions such as math, science, and special education. The average salary in the district right now is about $38,000. Beginning teachers would probably be around $33 to $35, depending on their subject matter. We offer benefits package, very affordable. I think our employees pay about $60 a month towards their health and insurance packages, which is very affordable.
What don't state legislators, maybe even the superintendent of Arizona schools, know about what's happening in this community when it comes to education?
I think they don't realize really what happens in the school at the working level. You know, I come, like I say, from small business and those types of areas, and we always look at government and you look at the schools and think, oh, they have all this money, they spend all this money, they don't know how to manage it. And from my view and seeing what happens here, we manage it really well. There's no fluff, and we don't spend like other things do, and they don't realize the struggles that we face in just making day-to-day operations, keeping up with the curve, and helping our students. And I think if they would come and see what happens here, they would realize that.
The Buzz now with my colleagues Mariana Dale and Christopher Conover. Thanks to the two of you for being here. Mariana, we'll start with you. You were at that press conference. What was the biggest takeaway?
So I think for me, the headlining proposal was the $400 million ask to improve teacher salaries and more recruitment. But there was really just a hodgepodge of other proposals mixed in there. Some of the proposals seem like they make a lot of sense. More teacher mentoring, connecting homeless students with resources to provide supplies. But then there were other ones that are pretty far-reaching, wanting to give tax incentives to teachers who teach in remote areas where they don't have high-performing schools. That's going to take significant action to actually get something like that into reality.
And you said it, the money is the big question. Christopher, she will need support too, which has been tough to do given that there's some turmoil at the Capitol.
There is turmoil surrounding education. She has to put it nicely, a rocky relationship with the Board of Education. She has skipped some meetings, which they have made note of, notably the last one right before this proposal was released. And she said the reason was she was still working on the proposal, but she was aware of what was on the agenda and she didn't think she needed to be there. She's had a rocky relationship at times with the governor, some members of the legislature. She will need all of those people and school superintendents out in the districts and teachers to get behind her and behind this proposal to get it through. This is one of 4 different education reform proposals now working its way through the system at the Capitol.
And Mariana, as we saw in your story, there's a $400 million price tag, but there are other things that will need to be paid for, which could shoot this figure up toward maybe 700 plus?
Yeah, there are a lot of proposals in there. One of them, an example, I guess, would be that she'd like to see statewide broadband access so that schools can easily access resources and testing online. That's something that would take a significant amount of capital and infrastructure, and there isn't really a price tag given for that in here.
It's you have the report there. It's thick.
It's hefty.
It's hefty. Christopher, what are you hearing covered at the Capitol as far as who's reading this and who's saying, you know what, this is applicable, we could do this?
I think everybody read it, or at least thumbed through it. Maybe it's over 150 pages, so they may not have read it word for word yet. The Democrats have come out and said, we have a plan of our own. The governor, of course, has his plan. His focus is mainly on money. The Democrats have a money plan. The House Speaker and the Senate President have a money plan. That's where most of the plans are focusing for this upcoming legislative session right now, is how to get more money into the classroom, not so many specifics on new programs. But those will probably come as individual lawmakers start filing bills.
Okay, Mariana, where do we go from here? What's next? This was based off of a listening tour. Is there another one scheduled?
Yeah, so she is going to be having a tour to share the details of her proposal, going to, I think, more than a dozen locations in the state, and she is going to be in Tucson in November.
Okay, thanks to the both of you for your analysis. We'll look forward to future reporting. And that's our program. Thank you for joining us. For all of us at Arizona Public Media, I'm Lorraine Rivera.